You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Every day, there are going to be more and more personnel decisions. We kind of expected this with the season coming to an end for LSU football and the draft deadline coming for players to declare for the draft, or the portal deadline also coming up next week as well. It's the 18th is the portal deadline. We were expecting to hear decisions from a lot of guys. I did not anticipate this one, just to be very upfront with you. But LSU offensive lineman Anthony Bradford earlier today announced on his Instagram that he is going to go pro. So Anthony Bradford is declaring for the draft. Now, he has played 4 seasons. It's worth mentioning. Bradford was a member of the 2019 signing class, so he was a true freshman on the 2019 national championship team. He redshirted that year. He came in 2020 in the COVID year and played sparingly that year. Really was expected to have a big breakout year in 2021, battled some injuries, and then played this entire season and is now headed to the NFL draft. And really, one of the things that we were very excited about for LSU was returning your entire starting 5 and your top 6 offensive linemen, because, of course, both Frazier and Dellinger played at left guard this year. So Bradford leaving is a little bit of a wrench into that plan there, but Garrett Dellinger could very easily slide over and play right guard, or Dellinger could play left guard, and Frazier could slide over and play right guard. I mean, you have options there. But Bradford is... I guess this is a bit of a surprise, but any player going pro after year 4 kind of makes sense, doesn't it? A lot of these guys, if you're a good enough high school athlete to sign at a place like LSU, generally you're thinking 3 years in the pros, maximum 4. Very few prospects sign at a place like LSU thinking they're going to be here 5-6 years. That's an outlier. Just because by the nature of the fact that you're good enough to get a scholarship at a place like LSU, you're in such a tiny percentage at the top of the high school game that you're thinking you'll do your 3-4 years, you'll go pro. But Bradford leaving after year 4, I guess it makes sense. And the other thing that does kind of make sense for him, and this is a double-sided coin, but he played in 29 games with 17 starts. So Bradford's only in all of the games he played in 2020 were sort of in a reserve special teams role. And then in 2021, he started 5 games, played in 6, had injuries, and missed the remainder of the year. So he's really only played extensively in 17 games over 4 years. So the point is, he's not broken down physically. This happens a lot of times, especially with linemen. You get these big old dudes that play. I mean, look at Austin Deculus. Austin Deculus played more games than anyone else in the history of LSU football. And look, God bless him. I mean, he's taking a shot at the NFL right now. But he's a guy who, in that season a year ago, it seemed like every game you'd see Deculus down on a knee. It just, his body has taken so much of a beating over 5 years. Bradford hasn't. I mean, he really was a starter for 1 year this year. But the interesting thing about Bradford is the expectation. Now, look, I think Bradford, like we talked about, his body's not broken down, and I also think he's going to go to the combine and do exceptionally well. When I went back and checked this today, when Bradford was in high school, he went to one of the elite showcase events. Again, this was in high school. This was in 2018 as a high school senior. As a high school senior, Anthony Bradford did 31 reps of 225. 31 reps of 225 as a senior. He's going to go to the combine and throw up 40-plus reps of 225. He may bench 225 more than any lineman at the combine. 6'5", 345. He's going to be fast and powerful and agile, and he'll do great at the combine, and someone's going to take him. And hopefully he's a day 2 pick. Hopefully he manages to get somewhere in that top 100 day 2 pick and has a great NFL career. But what's interesting about Bradford, it's almost like we never got to see the full potential maximized and realized. And a lot of this was because before 2021 season, remember, that summer, Ed Ogeron raved about Anthony Bradford. This is what Ogeron said last summer.
Anthony Bradford is 6'4.5", 354. I believe Anthony's probably our most talented offensive lineman, but he needs to show it. I mean, he can cover up with 3 technique. He has good feet. He needs to come back in shape. This summer is going to be critical for him.
So Ogeron really built up Bradford as our quote best offensive lineman, and so there was a lot of expectation. And remember, a year ago in 2021, he started at both right. He started the opener at right guard against UCLA, was injured, missed 3 games, came back and played left tackle, and then missed the remainder of the season. So he had some suspension issues, but then was injured. So he was kind of unavailable. Except for 6 games in the 5 that he started. So we never really got to see it from Bradford, but I think, again, he's going to go do well at the Combine and hopefully stay healthy and have a long NFL career. The conversation then turns to LSU in 2023 and what that looks like. Of course, you have Will Campbell, Miles Frazier, Charles Turner, Garrett Dellinger, Emory Jones from left to right. I mean, you've got your 5 starters there, locked in. And then you're bringing in Lance Hurd. And, of course, you still got Tremont Shorts. Remember, Tremont Shorts was a JUCO All-American who fell down the depth chart. But last summer, in fall camp, Tremont Shorts was getting reps with the 1s and 2s, and then he just got beaten out by Emory Jones, and then Miles Frazier slid over, and he just got bumped down. But the really interesting thing, and I've told y'all this before, and it's even – the need is now even further magnified with the Bradford news. Marcus Dumerville transferred. Xavier Hill is transferred. Cam Wire has transferred. Now Bradford has gone pro. You've lost 4 offensive linemen. You've lost 4 offensive linemen from this past year. So a lot of your veteran depth is gone. You're going to have to supplement there. And I know a lot of people can say, why would a guy come here to be a backup? Well, if you're a guy that played a year somewhere else and didn't like your spot, or 2 years, and you still have 2 years remaining, you could come kind of fill a role this year and then maybe have a chance to be a starter next year when you're going to see a lot of turnover on that offensive line. There's a lot of reasons why guys may do that. And by the way, I mentioned the 3 that have left, Dumerville, Hill, and Wire in the portal. That might not be it. I mean, you may go through spring ball and you may have another wave of some of these veterans. I mean, I'm not to name names, but you know who they are. I mean, guys that have been hanging around. Marlon Martinez, who's been backed up at center and played pretty well. Cardell Thomas is still there. Kimo Makaneoli. I mean, I'm not suggesting I know that those guys are leaving, but it would make sense if some of them did to find a place to go get on the field somewhere. But you just know that LSU is going to have to target that position to add some veteran depth there. And I think the big question about that unit in particular, about that offensive line, is how much can they improve from 2022 to 2023? Because it was a rough start. And we've gone over it a bunch. They used 6 different line combinations through the first 8 games. They had injuries and position changes and all that sort of stuff, and they steadied themselves late. But LSU was 114th in the country. 131 teams, by the way, play in the FBS, 131. LSU was 114 out of 131 in sacks allowed at 3.3 per game. That's not good. That's objectively very bad. And in as far as rushing offense, they were 43rd in rush yards per game. Now, and a lot of that was because you had a mobile quarterback who was able to make something out of nothing. But you have a talented line. Campbell and Jones are going to get better. Charles Turner became a very consistent piece in the center. Frazier and Dellinger are really good players. Dellinger battled injury this year. He'll be back. So you like that line, another year older, another year more talented, another year more skilled, another year more developed, the continuity, all that stuff. You would expect this line will be very, very good next year, even with the news that Bradford is heading off to the NFL, although that is certainly a blow to the starting lineup, to your depth, all that sort of stuff. And it's not that you can't replace Bradford. I mean, you could take Dellinger or Frazier and just put him in that spot. But what it does, when you move that guy up, now your depth is hurt and someone else has to step up. Because as we saw this year, injuries happen. I mean, it is statistical fact. There are more injuries on the offensive line than any other position group in football because it's so physical there on the interior. So Anthony Bradford, heading to the NFL draft, certainly wish him well. LSU's first 5 likely locked in. How do they build the depth behind those first 5? That's the big question for 2023. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.